to enjoy them on the council.
Good evening. Would you stand with me for the invocation and pledge of allegiance, please?
Bill? Yes. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, I thank you for the city in which we've been blessed to live, and I thank you for the men and women of council who have given their time and effort to help this be a better place for all of us. I pray that the work that's done here this evening will support that goal of making this a better place for all of us. And I pray all this in Christ's name.
Amen.
Amen. Mr. Scott, stand, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to call to order this regular session of the Vienna City Council for April the 25th, 2024. Let the record reflect that I've taken roll that all members of council are present this evening. Councilman Azinger is joining us by phone. Having a quorum, we will proceed. We will approve the minutes at our next council meeting. So we're going to go right into our public forum this evening. We have 4 people that have signed up to speak, and we will start this evening with Brian Flynn.
I don't even know if I need this or not. Anybody hear me? So, council, mayor, guests. I've been a long-time resident of Vienna for 49 years. I was a student at Parkersburg High School from 1990 to 1993. And as many of you have heard, Jean Singer passed away yesterday. I feel in honor of her life that we should have a Jean Singer Day. She lived in Vienna. She taught in Parkersburg. I've talked to Barbara Joyce to maybe talk to her son about doing some, mentioning something in Parkersburg. And I think Vienna should do the same thing too. She was a big pillar in our community, and I feel that she should be honored. That's it. Thank you.
Okay. Tony Morrison.
Tony Morrison. I live on 15th Street, and thank you for the opportunity to speak today. What a big day it is. I think there are many of us here in the room and watching at home that have been waiting for this day for months, and it's finally here. And today we're going to hear the results of the economic impact study. This is the first step of many toward the future of Vienna. This study is going to tell us what kind of growth we can expect from our plans at Spencer's Landing. And it can be applied to the Johns Manville property as well. Roughly 35 acres of contiguous land. What an important time in our city's history. The decisions that this governing body makes over the next several months can make a lasting impact on this town. This council will literally be deciding the future of our city. And to that end, I believe that it's paramount that all age groups are considered in these decisions. This council has said many times, we're an aging population. We can't keep young families here. Now it's time to capitalize. Let's hear from young families like mine, people my age like me. Let's be a part of this decision-making process. We need to hear from people in this area that want to see something for our kids, for our teens, something we can look forward to after school, on the weekends, a place we can hang out, be a community, share a common space. Let the kids play. Give the adults with young kids a chance to conversate with other adults. My wife, she spends several hours a day at home with our 1-year-old, and he's not much for conversation. He pretty much just grunts and points at everything. The pool is a great start. I don't think there's a single kid in the Mid-Ohio Valley that isn't licking his chops, ready to be the first one down that slide this summer. But it's only open in the summer and when the weather's nice. What about the other 275 days of the year? Some of you may have heard about the $80 million sports complex that's being built in downtown Charleston. The plans are amazing. They've got 6 basketball courts, a soccer field, 8 pickleball courts, a track, an Olympic-sized swimming pool, a complete gym, individual workout rooms for aerobic classes, and it's all indoors. What a blessing that'll be for that city. And I just think of all the sports teams that are going to travel from hundreds of miles away to downtown Charleston tournaments, to sleep in Charleston hotels, to eat at Charleston restaurants. And we can do that here. I'm not suggesting an $80 million sports complex, but I think we can do something similar. We have the people right here in this place right now that are capable of getting this done. This council has proven themselves capable of making big projects happen. And that's why I'm excited. So council, as we move forward in this planning process, I urge you, please, don't lose that vision. What do we want as a city? If we want to attract young families to the area, let's build something for them. If we want to become an Ascend hub, let's work to that end. Something for all of us. If we want, and that's why I'm excited. What a great time to be a resident of Vienna. I thank God that He brought me home at this very moment in my life. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what He works out in this city. Thank you.
Tammy Rhodes.
Good evening. The only thing that I would like to do is request that for each of the presentations that are going to be going on, that there is a public question and answer session afterwards, so that if the public does have questions about either the amphitheater, economic impact study, or the location of the school, that those questions can be asked. Thank you.
Barbara Joyce.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, for letting me be here tonight and saying a few things. I hope I don't make too many people angry. I live at the corner of 9th Avenue and 17th Street in Vienna. And many years ago, I came here and spoke from this very place for about 2.5 years with zoning. And I learned so much from doing that process. And because of that process, I was appointed to the Planning Commission. Now, I'm not sure exactly how many years ago that was, but 23 years ago, I had hip replacement, came home from the hospital. 20 minutes later, I got a phone call from Bob Marshall. We needed to have a meeting, so they all came to my house around my hospital bed, and we had our meeting. And from then on, I have been on the Planning Commission, and my love of Vienna grows daily. My sons had a wonderful childhood growing up here in Vienna. They have all done well. They have all learned so much from Vienna Rec and the schools. I can't tell you, Neal School, Jackson School, David Jackson Junior High. I know it's Jackson Middle now. But I decided I wanted to give back to Vienna. So I have volunteered for just about anything that anybody asks me for. And I had someone ask me how I got on the Friends of Vienna board. And I said, I volunteered. And that's the choice word. That is the word that we need to get out. Volunteer. Get people involved. I'm tickled to death with the pool. I think it's wonderful. It's been a long time coming. But when I got on that planning commission, I've been hurt by the remarks that have come from here about the planning commission, indicating that we do not do our job. I started with Bob Marshall, Gordon Monroe, Jeff Maiden, Mike Hayden, and at one time Randy, excuse me, Mr. Mayor, and I'm trying to think who else. Tom Williams, Kim's dad, was at one time on the Planning Commission, and we have worked hard. There's been complaints about the fact that we only meet quarterly. Years ago, we met 2 times a month. There was growth going on. There were things going on that we had to have those meetings. But as the economy changed and there wasn't anything for us to come for, we went to once a month. And then from once a month, we went to quarterly. With the option, if we wanted, or if there was something that came up, they could call for a special meeting, and we've done that many times. So what I'm asking, I think, of you all is to please be a little kinder to the people that give their time. I appreciate the fact that Mayor Rapp mentioned that it is a volunteer and we give our hours and we get nothing from it. I don't expect anything from it. I do it because I want to. I've lived in Vienna come August, 50 years. And it means a lot to me. And I have been really upset with the derogatory remarks made about some of the people appointed to different positions from Vienna Rec clear through Jack Mathers. I have worked with Jack probably 20, 25 years, Daryl Dotson, on the park board, and nobody works any harder than Jack. And Daryl taught me an awful lot. And worked close with Vienna Rec. And I want to see it grow. I want to see it where the children can go to the park and we not have to worry about it, or more parks, more places, so they're not on the street. So please, think of our children, think of their education, and volunteer for Vienna. Thank you.
Before we go into unfinished business this evening, I have a proclamation that I would like to read. It's General Federation Day of Women's Club. Whereas the General Federation of Women's Clubs was organized on April the 24th, 1890, and duly chartered by President William McKinley in the United States Congress on March the 3rd of 1901. And whereas the General Federation of Women's Clubs is one of the world's largest and oldest non-denominational women's volunteer service organizations with members in 50 states, the District of Columbia, Puerto Rico, and 20 countries. And whereas the General Federation of Women's Clubs maintains as a source of its public policy initiatives resolutions that are adopted as annual conventions and reflect the organization's consensus on issues of national and international importance. And whereas the General Federation of Women's Clubs provides organizational structure and obtains sponsorship and support of developed and program materials for member clubs that further their volunteer service mission. And whereas the General Federation of Women's Clubs provides opportunities to develop personal and leadership skills, study issues, educate the public, stimulate civic consciousness, commemorate women's history, and participate in constructive public services. And whereas the General Federation of Women's Clubs encourages its membership to develop a vital and continuing commitment to community improvement. And whereas the General Federation of Women's Clubs in all communities celebrate April the 24th, 2024 as GFWC Federation Day, therefore, be it resolved that in recognition of more than a century of volunteer service to their communities by the General Federation of Women's Club members, I hereby proclaim April the 24th, 2024 as General Federation Day in Parkersburg and Vienna, West Virginia. And it's signed by Thomas T. Joyce, Mayor, City of Parkersburg, and I, Randall C. Rapp, Mayor of the City of Vienna. And I know that we have some of the ladies from the Women's Club here tonight, so thank you all. First item this evening is an ordinance on second reading authorizing the implementation of the Vienna Police Department's Deferred Retirement Optional Plan. Mr. Stogstad, do you have that in front of you, or would you like mine?
I have.
Would you read it, please, sir?
This is an ordinance authorizing implementation of the Vienna Police Department's Deferred Retirement Optional Plan. Whereas the City of Vienna and the City of Vienna Police Department has sought to implement a Deferred Retirement Optional Plan. Whereas a Deferred Retirement Optional Plan, commonly referred to as a DROP, is a mechanism wherein an employee can receive a retirement benefit but continue to work and draw wages. Whereas the City of Vienna and the City of Vienna Police Department seeks to implement a DROP that will allow eligible members to receive a retirement benefit based on service and average annual compensation as of the DROP participation or entry date, continue receiving their wages for their continued employment, accumulate benefits during the drop period in the member's drop account, and participate in such drop for a period that may span from 1 year to 5 years, provided that the member completes drop by the age of 65. Whereas drops are permitted under West Virginia Code 82225A, whereas a prerequisite of adopting a drop, the municipality must submit the proposed drop to the West Virginia Municipal Pensions Oversight Board, which in turn will cause the drop to be analyzed by a qualified actuary. Whereas the City of Vienna previously submitted the proposed drop to the West Virginia Municipal Pensions Oversight Board, and whereas by letter dated March 26, 2024, the West Virginia Municipal Pensions Oversight Board notified the City of Vienna that the proposed drop had been approved and indicated that based on information from that board's actuary, that the plan is projected to result in a net gain. Now, therefore, be it ordained by the Common Council of the City of Vienna that the City of Vienna authorizes and adopts the Deferred Retirement Optional Plan for the City of Vienna Policemen's Pension and Relief Fund as approved by the West Virginia Municipal Pensions Oversight Board according to West Virginia Code 82225A. The City of Vienna Police Department, the City of Vienna Policemen's Pension and Relief Fund are authorized to implement such Deferred Retirement Optional Plan. A copy of the Deferred Retirement Optional Plan is attached and made a part of this ordinance.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion on second reading for an ordinance authorizing the implementation of the Vienna Police Department's Deferred Retirement Optional Plan.
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve on second reading the ordinance authorizing the implementation. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, then I'll call for the question. Would you please poll council?
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Azinger?
Tom, can you hear us?
Mr. Leach?
Yes.
Mr. Rapp?
Yes.
I say yes. Mr. Bibby?
Yes.
Mr. Mancuso?
Yes.
All right, thank you. The drop program is approved unanimously. All right, so we go into new business this evening, and the new business this evening is, it's going to be a fun night. We have some very exciting people with us this evening, and we're going to start with the superintendent of Wood County Schools, Ms. Christy Willis, and Mr. Ryan Taylor from Pickering. So if you'd like to go up, Ryan, whenever you're ready. Yep. She's going to take all of the show.
I am going to start. And I thank Barbara Joyce for kicking off for a nice positive for Wood County Schools. So thank you very much for that. Good evening, Mayor Rapp and City Council members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. Tonight, I hope that Wood County Schools and the City of Vienna can embark on a journey together. Wood County Schools passed a bond in May 2022 and received the necessary funding from the School Building Authority in December 2023 to begin building new schools. The original plan for the new Vienna Elementary was for the school to be built in the vicinity of the current Vienna Elementary on property already owned by the Board of Education. As time has passed, Wood County Schools would like to request the City Council to consider another option that may be better for all of us. There is a property off of Rosemar Road where the current recreation facility is located behind the ball fields that would be a prime location for a new school. And at this time, I'm going to ask Mr. Taylor to pass out the map.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Tom, can you hear the presentation? Okay, great. Oh, absolutely. Hello, Mr. Lee. How are you?
I'll let you put that on.
Hey, Ryan, are you going to use the Elmo? Okay, there you go.
If I can do it right, sir. How about that?
All right, this property is on the road that connects Rosemar Road to Jackson Middle School. Of the 3 elementary schools that Wood County Schools is going to build, the new Vienna Elementary will be the largest with a 670 student capacity. The property that we are interested in would be approximately 11 acres that would be ideal for a large elementary school. And with this school plan, students who attend Neal Elementary and Vienna Elementary would all be able to attend the new Vienna Elementary School. In addition to the acreage, this property provides a solution to the traffic congestion on Grand Central that's currently experienced at arrival and dismissal times with the current placement of Neal Elementary and Vienna Elementary. The request tonight from Wood County Schools is to allow Pickering Associates to begin due diligence work on the property. Wood County Schools will be interested to learn if this property is a viable option to build a school on, and with your approval, we would like to move forward with due diligence phase. I would like to introduce at this time Ryan Taylor, CEO of Pickering Associates, to share with you what is entailed in a due diligence phase.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thanks for having me. So I do want to just talk briefly what a due diligence phase looks like. The taxpayers want to make sure that Wood County buys good, usable property, so we're going to do some study. So the first thing we're going to do is we'll do a survey, topographical survey. We'll study the topography to understand how much it would cost to grade and make this area ready for building a school. The school is roughly going to be close to 70,000 square feet, so we're going to use a lot of this area. We'll also do phase 1 environmental. So we'll study this property to see what was used before in the past to make sure there's no surprises that would cause change orders and issues in the future. We will also do an archaeological study, and essentially we are looking for primitive campsites, things that the state of West Virginia would say we shouldn't build on. So that will entail digging about 700 little holes around the property, looking for arrowheads, trinkets, and things like that. And then finally, we will do a subsurface investigation. On this image I've shown you, you'll see boreholes. We are boring down, depending on what my engineers tell me, we could go as far as 80 feet deep. Depending on where these are, we are going to determine what is there. We understand there's rock there. We will understand what type of rock it is, what the soil conditions are, so we can properly advise the county on if this property is suitable for a new school. We just finished this process for Lubeck. It turned into a 400-page report. It provided a lot of detail on cost of the utilities, the cost of the grading, and everything was going to take to put this property into action as an elementary school. So this is a necessary process. We would like to start immediately. You guys have an awesome T-ball field there. And so we have great concern about, as a former T-ball coach, I do not want to wreck someone's T-ball season. So we have changed our plan, Mayor, and we are going to work around your T-ball field. And so I don't think we are going to disturb it at all. And so we're going to, we've moved the boreholes around it. And so I think if you would allow us to start immediately, I think we can do our due diligence and be in harmony with activities in the park. So open up for questions. Hopefully we've described it. Oh, most importantly, we're doing a traffic study. Forgot that one. So we've contracted with the Department of Highways certified firm. We are counting cars. We have to do it during school hours during this period. So we will be studying the traffic counts on Rosemar and Jackson Road. We'll study what type of intersections are required. We're also looking at SBA 6200, which is the Bible for schools in West Virginia, to make sure this property meets the minimum requirements. So I might have missed something off the top of my head. We've done this so many times, it's kind of old hat, but that's what the process, timeline. You're probably 2 months. Christy would love to come back to you and give you the report in a couple months when this is all done, and hopefully everything comes back. We have a green light to move forward. We're doing this in other areas as well, but this is a very important location to us. Now, I think we can entertain questions.
I don't know a question, but to the extent of being of use to you, the section that would have to be excavated down,
Yes, sir.
that soil has been tested by the licensed remediation specialist for cap fill we used over at Manville. So to the extent those reports are being used to you, they would be available from our licensed remediation specialist.
Craig's been helpful all your team has been very helpful. So anything you have will build a better narrative so we can give better advice to the superintendent and her board to make a decision. So anything, historical records, things that was there and how things were done, we would take it for sure.
So just email it to you?
Please.
Okay.
So I'm the project manager on this job, but I have a whole team working. There's 3 schools and we've kind of divided and conquered on this job. Roger, go ahead.
Did I understand that this would involve Neal and Vienna elementary students and not Greenmont, or is it all inclusive?
It is not all inclusive. It is just Neal and Vienna, and that's what was on the bond call.
Yeah, thank you.
So I have a question. So basically, you're going to be picking up about 4 acres by going to this site versus where the school is now in the 41st Street area?
That's a fair to say, yes. More importantly, we're picking up more opportunity to put the traffic queue on her property. So if this worked out, the goal would be that we do not want the vehicles on Jackson Road. So we will put the parking and the actual traffic stacking on the property that the school is on.
All right, thank you.
And that's why the extra acreage is needed.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think, probably most people anticipated that you were just going to build right where the school is now, but
that was the original plan. In order to do that, there's 2 things. The original plan was that the students in North Hills were going to go to Greenmont, and that some of Vienna and all of Neal would go to the new school. There was going to have to be some restructuring. In this new plan, all of Neal and all of Vienna would go here. The North Hill students would go right to that school, so they would not have to transfer. They can be, with the Vienna population that they're in right now.
Driving by a brand new school could be discomforting to a new parent. Once you do your due diligence, is that when we will talk about what will come the other direction, or how would you like to do that?
I think so, yeah. Yeah, after we do the due diligence and we know that we could put a school there, then I think we move on to more conversation.
Okay, I'm okay with that.
Okay.
I think the steps would be, she would talk to council, her kind of Board of Education, and they would accept the due diligence report and authorize her to come and negotiate. I think is the proper way it would go.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? It's going to be easy for you tonight. All right.
Thank you.
So, Tom, do you have any questions or anything?
No, sir, I don't.
All right, that's great. Mr. Skogstad, I don't believe it requires council action just to authorize them.
Not for the due diligence. I think that's an administrative function. To facilitate their ability to do due diligence, I think that's an administrative function since there's not a transfer of any property or what have you. So I don't think we need to have any further council action. Certainly could if council desired it or if the mayor desired it, but I don't think it's necessary.
I don't think it's going to be that big of an intrusion, so we'll sign your letter, Ryan, and we'll get you started.
And once again, I want to be very clear, we will do our best to do the least impact to Vienna Rec and any T-ball sports there, because I have 3 boys and I never want to impact kids doing sports and athletics, and so we'll do our best. And there could be some disturbed soils and things like that, and we'll work together to make it right.
And you do have a drilling crew that's going to come in to do this job for you, but just as a backup, if you'll let us know, our public works guys, our park department, we'll put cones around whatever there is. We'll make sure that it's safe, and whatever we need to do to work with you on this process.
Thank you so much.
All right. Well, thank you. We look to see the results.
Thank you very much.
All right. Next item on our agenda this evening is our economic impact study. We have Cynthia Gowdy here.
Good afternoon. It's great to be back. I have, I think we have the full report, but I would like, if I can get this going for us here, to do an overview, sort of a summary and a slide presentation so that everybody can see how do we get this projected.
I can see if I can mess it up.
You have faith in us.
I can always just talk through it, but
Should be this.
something happened. There, yes, thank you. Yay.
I didn't let the magic work.
So with the help of Byers and Associates, we have put together an impact study, and what I want to present tonight is the summary or overview in a slide presentation, and the full report has been provided to the city, and that's we'll work from that. I can answer questions from that. So why did we do this study? Because, it's what businesses across the nation have dealt with. Gosh, that's too small for you guys to read. It's about quality of life, but also we know that it stimulates economic development, and it attracts and retains talent into your community and the environment that helps communities thrive and attracts new business. I also wanted to throw in a word about tourism because we're talking about the amphitheater and we're talking about having events there. But what we're also talking about is tourism, because a certain percentage of them will be local residents who want to go and enjoy, families who are going to go to events that will be hosted there and be part of an overall comprehensive approach that I know that all of you have been discussing. But it is also about tourism, because your events will attract people from hopefully longer away than just an hour, because we're hoping that they will spend the night and you will have lots of opportunities for economic growth from people that come to Vienna, discover how wonderful it is, and then from there live here, bring their businesses here, visit more often. Those are all factors. So the impacts of tourism and the impacts that we were looking at as part of the study is infrastructure development, because as you build your city, you're going to be looking at water and sewer. You're going to be looking at traffic. You're going to be looking at a number of your infrastructure needs that will be impacted by the activity that's happening in your parks and what we will see happening with other things in your community. For example, local entrepreneurship. We were joking around as we were working on the study, and we said, well, we'll have people park you don't park a boat, sorry, bring their boats to an event so they can sit in the water on their boat and enjoy whatever the music or presentation is that is happening at Spencer's Landing. Well, I think it would be great if somebody got a little pontoon boat, maybe a tiki hut on a pontoon boat, and start providing service like a food truck does. So there are opportunities for entrepreneurship that what you're doing will increase and attract new businesses. Your natural resource preservation and restoration is really important to the tourism industry, and because of that, it's an added impetus for the preservation of the resources that you have here, and it also leads to restoration and helps attract dollars for restoration of some of the things that you want to do. And the cultural preservation is part and parcel of that. It demonstrates the need to protect your history, to know it, and really encourage preservation. So those are reasons why I know that you asked for the study. We looked at 3 value streams: the direct economic impact that will happen, ticket sales, concessions, the food trucks, whatever you're going to be taking care of there. Strongly suggest that you look for sponsorships to attract money, to help provide quality entertainment and activities there, all of those direct economic expenses. But there's also the indirect. Your hotel accommodations, because as you have a 3-day event, you're going to have vendors come in and they need to spend the night. So they're going to stay at your 1-2 hotels that you have in Vienna, but also in the community. You'll see the ripple effect of this indirect economic impact. They've got to go out to eat while they're here. They're going to hang out at the mall. So we look at the indirect economic impact. And then there's an induced impact, which means that because all these things are happening, it's creating or influencing some other things. For example, employment. We're going to talk a little bit about how many jobs are going to be created as a result of these value streams. The increase in income for local residents, because they're going to be working here, they're going to be employed here. There's the opportunity for them to pick up and create a small business. So there's an economic impact for your residents. And then local business growth. You will see a change in how many businesses you have, the value of those businesses, how successful they are. We looked at one community that had over $500 million in new development happen in their community over a 10-year period because, and they could directly tie it in to the fact that they had an amphitheater and a riverscape plan, a comprehensive look of all the kinds of things that you could do, and the centerpiece, of course, being the amphitheater. But the amphitheater is the start. So I love your dreams for Spencer's Landing, and we looked at, the concepts that you have for Spencer's Landing. We read the comments that were done by the survey that led to this particular plan, where people talked about what they wanted. They wanted recreation, they wanted things for their families to do, they wanted opportunities to be outdoors. And so this was foundational, and the survey was foundational. So when I was here before, we talked a little bit about the opportunities that Vienna has, and I wanted to make sure that we talk about a little bit and preface the results with the fact that you are like in the central part of the Mid-Ohio Valley, and this valley has a history that goes back prior to George Washington, actually, but Lewis and Clark, our early pioneers, such as the Spencer family, all the way to some very exciting things that are happening now. The Ohio River Islands National Wildlife Refuge is here. The headquarters for that is north of Williamstown, but it runs from north of Wheeling all the way down past Ravenswood, the Racine Pool in Ravenswood. So this wildlife refuge it's been exciting for me to learn about over the last few years. We actually have some endangered species in the Ohio River, and they're very active in saving the freshwater mussel. And why do we care about the freshwater mussel? I could go on about that, but you probably don't want to hear about it. But I get excited about it because how they are protecting the barrier islands and the coastlines along the Ohio River are really important to being able to save those species and many others. The Neal Island, about half of that is part of the National Wildlife Refuge, which is right here. Your shoreline is, the river, of course, is. So there's a lot of opportunity with tourism, with ecotourism in particular. And there's already a lot happening in the area. And bringing Vienna into that and connecting the dots with your riverscape and your recreation is exciting. There's also a Lewis and Clark National Historic Trail. I don't know if you're aware of that, but just right across the river, actually all the way down from Pittsburgh, of course, all the way to the Pacific coast is the trail, but it starts at Pittsburgh and it goes right past here. It's right here on the river. And so when you develop Spencer's Landing, you can talk about the Lewis and Clark National Historic Trail and actually bring in the history of our region. To me, that's really important. And then, of course, the Ohio River is a scenic byway. Ohio takes great advantage of that along the State Route 7. But I make some recommendations a little bit later that keep this one in mind. So the park already has a lot of great things going on for it. The Gold Star Family Memorial is amazing. That Storybook Trail, I don't know how much you use it, but that's just a fantastic walking trail, and taking your family and stopping and reading the books, and how you can change the books out to go with whatever's happening with any of your events, and like Arbor Day. So the opportunity there is tremendous, and so many other events that are going on. And private day use is something that we calculated into the study. As you get the amphitheater up and you want to have events there, people are going to want to rent that space. They're going to want to use it. And so the private day use of that is going to be a factor. So our methodology, we wanted to, there's standards for doing this, I guess is the best way to put it. There's a software program called IMPLAN, IMPLAN, that does statistical analysis. We use that. Our partners, D. Byers and Associates, have access to that, and we plugged in a lot of data for that. We also used a study that was just done in southeastern Ohio, and that study is amazing and did a lot of the work that we had planned to do. And some of the data that we've used is using that as a basis and then developing that for our community here. So the actual numbers are dependent on a couple of things. One of them is what you actually decide and design to do. So The amphitheater is a concept, but we don't know how big it's going to be yet. We don't know, is it going to be covered? How well is it going to be used year round? So we looked at some numbers and made some assumptions, and the study is based on those pieces of information. We did look at successful operations up and down the Ohio River corridor. And over the last 25 years, the influence and the importance of the river has grown. So up and down the river, there are already a number of facilities that we could look at. And in the final report, we go in depth on some of these facilities. So I have pictured here, these are some of the ones we looked at. In Dayton, Ohio, they have a structure it's a pavilion with a tinseled roof, and they are able to turn that into an ice skating rink in the wintertime. So they get almost year-round use out of it, which is kind of an exciting concept. I think you mentioned something about that too. Heritage Port up in Wheeling is right on the water. It's kind of small, but if you can Google it, or it's again at length in the report about the Heritage Port in Wheeling. And then the Berkman Amphitheater in Steubenville. We looked at that one because it's also on the river. Now, when we start kind of mapping those out, the Wheeling one is the closest one. And then you've got to go down. I know Ravenswood is planning on putting in some kind of an amphitheater, but they haven't done it yet. That's like the last thing they have on their list in their comprehensive plan. So there really isn't another one after Wheeling that's right along on the river like you're talking about doing. So it was exciting to look at the ones that are successful, what made them successful, how they worked. And we have a number of recommendations we can talk about based on what they discovered. So here it is. And then we can talk a little bit more about other things, but I know you guys want to know this. So when we assumed some numbers that we could use as a basis, we based it on 5 large events per year happening. Now, thinking about manpower and and you can actually put these together, but over the period of a year, 33,000 total attendees in 5 major events, like your Freedom Festival. So a number of large events like that. We determined that would be about $900,000 in the direct economic impact. That's your event spending, your ticket sales, your concessions, your fees, parking fees, et cetera. And then in $1.1 million in forecasted spending throughout the local regional. That's your restaurants, your overnight stays, your convenience stores, your gasoline. So a total economic impact just from those 5 major events annually is $2 million. We also assumed that the community would want to rent the facility. You're building something that you want the community to use. So we determined, again, assume 22 community-driven events where the community would come in and do, we're going to put on a show for kids. WVUP had one once called Frogs, and we had almost 1,000 people come to this show, PBS kind of show. We wanted, I'm sure, Ms. Willis, that the high schools and the middle schools and the elementary schools want to do graduation events there, plays there. There's so many opportunities for the community to take advantage of this space and have activities here. And when you begin to put it together with, again, I know there's been a lot of talk about using the tinsel covering for it and covered seating, that will extend the time period that you can use it. But in April, May, June, and having all of those school events will be fantastic. So for that, we assumed $16,500 in rental and fees, another $106,000 in spending through the local economy for a total economic impact of the rentals of about $132,000 $533. So with just that, which I think is a very conservative estimate, we see an impact of $2.2 million annually just in the near future. As I said, over the period of 10 years, these communities that we studied saw much larger impacts as they grew. They increased attendance, they increased the number of events they could host. They built comprehensive other amenities around the amphitheater and report having quite a lot of economic impact from that. And those details are in the report that you've received. So one of the other cool things that we found when we put this together is that with the conservative forecasts or assumptions we made about the numbers of events and the number of people who would be attending them, we forecast 38 jobs. The local economy will grow by 38 jobs related to the economic activities that will be a result of the events. You know, the gas station, convenience store needs to hire, put somebody else on shift. You need another person at the hotel. You decide, the bodega decides to open more hours. Things like that. So we predict another 38 jobs, which gets us to another $48,000 in new taxes, because the income taxes and other fees that would be associated with those jobs. So here is a little bit, I have to put my glasses on, I'm sorry, it doesn't come up any bigger for all of you. We talked about a spring festival of some type with 5,000 attendees. These are the events that we were talking to you about. The Freedom Festival, of course, you've already got. Music in the Park series, a juried art show or craft show, and a home show would be some of the things that you might be able to foster happening. That got us to the 33,000 attendees. And in this chart, that I'm sorry you can't read very well, you can see how many of those we estimated would be those people would be local, how many of them wouldn't be local, what the local revenue would be, what would happen with direct event revenue, and then the total revenue that would happen as a result of just those events that we have here, 5 events. And then we know that there's a number of companies here that like to do bridal showcases if they wanted to do a big outdoor event using the amphitheater. We talked about older residents, me being one of them, but having special activity days for them, a business showcase for your chamber. Different sports organizations would want to host their award programs, there's a number of activities that sports organizations would want to have, particularly I can envision the awards programs and a number of other things that sports, they love to have things. They love to recognize the things that have happened. And then the school graduations and school performances. You know, every school has a school play, everyone has a band, everyone has an orchestra, and this would be a great opportunity to showcase the new elementary school and the cool things that they're doing there. So that's where the estimates came from for the economic impact. And then we broke this down into direct expenditures, jobs numbers that we discussed, household income paid based on those, and then the local, state, and federal tax revenues that would be generated as a result of those. So it would also increase the sales tax that the city would collect and the other revenues associated with those taxes. So here is, we use this art study of the southeastern Ohio as a basis for this study. And the Southeast Ohio is the best analog to the Vienna market that we were able to determine. It's geographically similar, it's demographically similar, and the results that we want over the next couple of years as you decide the details of what you're going to build there, decide that you're going to build there, decide the details of what that's going to be. So we ran those numbers through InPlan to come up with these aggregated projected results that we just went over. Total expenditures, number of jobs created, household income that would be generated as a result of all of that, and then the impact on taxes. And this is a chart that just explains that. So some of the places that we looked, some of our recommendations now are, there are now, with the study, many grants. The Appalachian Regional Commission, will be very interested in this. There are the arts, depending on the kind of facility that you have and the kind of events that you have, there are a number of grant resources that you can use. Because the city is cleaning up a brownfield area, we believe that you will be a great success story, and you can get a lot of promotion for that and recognition for that. The site is large enough for a multi-phased outdoor recreation complex to go with this, and that would be a national contamination to recreation case study that when you write that up, I think that would bring you lots of recognition, and it would also bring dollars to the city for that. We also found, when we looked at many of these other places along the Ohio River corridor, cities that were a similar size of Vienna, and then cities that have had a lot of success and a longer history, so we could really look at how it worked over time and the history. The public-private partnership was an important factor. The city doesn't do it alone, the private industry doesn't do it, but the partnership became really critical between the city and their financial partners, sponsorships, not-for-profits that partnered with them to run the facility, because there's many things a private organization can do that a public organization cannot. Case in point is alcohol. So whether or not you can use alcohol on public property, you cannot. When the symphony performs at the school, we do not have alcohol. When the symphony performs somewhere else, they have alcohol, and they make money from selling alcohol. That's the way it needs to be. So when you work on your development plan and take it from the concept phase forward, some of our recommendations, of course, are working with the railroad. While the railroad main line doesn't pose any obstacles, the traffic and the noise congestion from the passing trains could cause issues. So we would recommend to put a monthly calendar together around the railroad operations, because this line is used a couple times a day, but it's predictable times of day. So providing that information will help facilitate better relationships there. Recommend developing an MOU with a nonprofit leadership group. If it's the city's intention to position the Friends of Vienna, for example, as the dedicated manager operator of these facilities, it's recommended that this relationship be solidified and actually develop an MOU and make that really official, so it's clear and everybody's expectations are outlined. Summer concert series would be a key revenue maker. Small town markets rely on regular visitor base from local concerts, and New Philadelphia, Wheeling, and Steubenville are examples of how a concert series helps sustain operations over time. And it created that stable base that you need. You have a big event like Freedom Festival, and you've got Spike. and you have a concert series that helps you maintain and sustain that over time. So you need both of those things. Look at future growth incrementally with the amphitheater as your focus. Unlike some other small riverfront amphitheater areas like Wheeling and Steubenville, the great economic impact value inherent in Spencer Landing is its size. Somebody was talking about that earlier too. It's recommended that the city establish a strong consensus around this complex with the seating that's sufficient to generate enough revenue and host a minimum of the 33,000. If it's too small, you're not going to realize any of this. Minimum of 10 vacant acres at Spencer Landing is our recommendation so that future phases can develop the amenities that you want around it.
Can you say that again? I didn't.
Yes. So retain a minimum of 10 acres. So you've got the amphitheater on the majority of it, but keep 10 acres because you know you're going to want to grow. You know you're going to want to, when you put your comprehensive plan together, if you make the whole thing the amphitheater and parking and you don't have the hiking paths and those kinds of things, you're constraining yourself. So keep in mind that you want to grow this is the recommendation as you're working on it. Tourism and hospitality are really the cornerstone of what you're doing. That's why I was talking about tourism in our PowerPoint that we're doing here. Couple ideas for potential tourism is, of course, the historical tourism, and that's a really big thing in our community. You have a lot of museums. You've got the Henderson Hall up here. You've got the Blennerhassett Museum, the Oil and Gas Museum in Parkersburg, but it's an opportunity here. You've got a wonderful kiosk here that's the beginning of that. But knowing that you're on the Ohio River Byway, you're on the Lewis and Clark Trail, George Washington was here, the history that you have of your own city, 1794, you've got the opportunity there to really drive more tourists to the area. Of course, hiking and kayaking are things that I know that the city has discussed. There are so many rides. When I say if you're a motorcycle person, you know a ride. You could promote and line up rides. I didn't realize until we were working on this that they do poker runs on the river. Poker runs on your motorcycle and poker runs on the river. Those are cool ways to increase your tourism here and bring more dollars into the city as it relates to the amphitheater. So, you know, you could have a huge poker run and have everybody come into the amphitheater and have a wonderful afternoon event with your motorcycle tourism. And then because of the National Wildlife Refuge, Islands Wildlife Refuge here, by the way, Neal Island has some of the biggest trees in the entire state. It's really amazing. But birding is big, and people will travel for birds. The birds that we see every day here that we kind of take for granted, someone from another part of the country would think it was the big bird of the year or their career that they wanted to. They've never seen one like that. So they come here. I lived in Florida for 30 years. I came home, but I used to have sandhill cranes that were trying to peck on my back door to come in because the window was reflecting them. Well, I was doing a birding tour and people got really excited because they'd never seen the sandhill crane before and they were just an irritant to me. So we have the same thing here. People will come here for that kind of tourism. So tourism and hospitality become a real draw, and it's the future of Vienna as we looked at this study. So I wanted to do a little bit, the following slides are from that Southeastern study. This is what they learned. Nonprofit arts and cultural attendees spent an average of $35.64 per person per event in 2022. So our study estimated about $38 is what people will be spending in today's dollars with inflation. So when someone comes to one of your events, a non-local attendee or a local attendee, we see what we expect that they'll spend just on food and drink. And then retail shopping, overnight lodging, local transportation, clothing, I forgot my hat, supplies and groceries, and childcare. We see an overall average of about $35.64 is what a person will spend when they come to one of your events. And you want to try and capture that money in your town. The travel party size in this study that we use, Southeastern Ohio, the average number of adults, there were 2 attendees per average, and then the number of children is 0.2, so 2.2 children for local attendees, but then travelers is a little bit higher than that. On average, there's 2 or 3 people that come together. And the age range was really interesting. 26 to 41 years was when most locals were attending. 12.8% of non-local attendees were attending the arts and cultural events in southeastern Ohio. The largest number was the 58 to 76 years of age, were who the local attendees were who came. Keep in mind that any of you been to Discovery World in Parkersburg? You know you can't get in there without a kid. They will not let you in. So guess what? I got my nieces and my nephews, and we all went and had a great time. So that's what happens, is families get together, and the grandparents and the aunts, they want to have experiences with their children, their nieces, their nephews. Because today's world, it's about experience. The millennials want experiences, and they don't care as much as perhaps my generation did about owning a home. They want to have an experience. So providing that age group with experience, that is also the age group that has young children. Here, interestingly enough, this group had the local attendees generally that we were surveying had bachelor's degrees, and their average annual household income was $60,000 to $100,000. Less than $30,000, about 15% of the attendees were in that category as well. So it's really across the board. Some of the communities we studied, their average ticket price for their events was as much as $100. I don't think we would do that here. I know People's Bank, some of those tickets up there in Marietta are pretty steep. Around here, we're still doing $25, $35, maybe $50 for our events. But as the reputation grows and you do more things here, I think you can get to, if Marietta can get to $100 a ticket, I think there are some things here that we could be doing that would generate more revenue. So interestingly enough, we did an audience intercept survey. We didn't. Southeast Ohio did that. And they asked people about how they felt about the events, how they felt about their community. 44.5% of local attendees at these events responded that they would have traveled to a different community to see those things. So when you look at an hour radius around Vienna, you start seeing how many people might come here, because we live in a metropolitan area of 100,000 plus. But when you start expanding out, you're looking at hundreds of thousands of people that are your potential customer to come here. And people will travel to come to events, one-day events, and they will also come for multi-day events if you have the amenities here to attract them and you have more than one thing to do. I got my college office is in the Oil and Gas Museum in downtown Parkersburg, and I got a phone call at about 3:30 and said, from the hotel, we have a family here from Poland, and I really want them to come over to the W.H. Smith hardware store and see the collection there. So I'm like, okay, here's a group from Poland. Earlier in the day, I'd been downstairs and talked to a group that was there from the Northeast. And they were visiting family here, and they had heard about the museum, and they wanted to come see it. So word of mouth really works, and you will see people coming from quite a distance away, because we have so many people here whose family have left. So when the family comes to visit, they need things to do. And the more that we can have for them to do, the more they appreciate the neighborhood, the more they're likely to stay. As in, again, another individual I spoke to this afternoon, he was one of the ones from the Northeast, but he had found his way to Ravenswood, and he decided he preferred the small town environment. He preferred West Virginia, and he had moved to Ravenswood, and that's why they were all there. They had come to see him. It's not all bad, I guess, that some of our family members have left, because we can get them to come back and visit and spend money and maybe move back like I did. So I'll take up a little bit of information about that study. And then these slides, which are included in the actual study, findings from the Americans Speak Out about the arts, the importance of the arts. 70% the people surveyed say that the arts improve the image and identity of their community. 63% felt that arts and culture inspire a sense of pride in their community, and 86% believe the arts and culture is important to their quality of life and the livability of their community. 79% agreed that having arts and culture available was important to growing their economy, local jobs, and attracting new business. So the other takeaways from this, I need to go into all of these details. All of these are in the study, and I can leave the PowerPoint as well. I want to thank Eddie Beyer with D. Byers and Associates, who worked with me on the report, and I have to do a plug for West Virginia University of Parkersburg. So, you want it? Any questions?
Yes, and I want one. Something that I'd like for you to mention is, you talk about competition when you have events, and I think you had a recent example of how these communities can work together and how competition can be certainly a good thing.
Absolutely. If there's only one thing going on here, am I going to travel 2 hours and stay in a hotel room for that? Not likely. So competition is good. Having several things going on in a weekend. For example, on this past Sunday, the Symphony had planned to have their concert at Henderson Hall. Because of the weather and the fact that cellos don't like to be cold, we had to move it into the ballroom at the Parkersburg Arts Center. And at the same time, we had 200 people in the ballroom at the Arts Center. Across the street, the Actors Guild had probably about 260 people at their matinee. Discovery World was open, and the Smoot had a jazz combo going on. So there was all these things going on in downtown Parkersburg. But it rarely happens when they all come together at the same time. And so all those people who were downtown from 2 o'clock in the afternoon to 5 o'clock in the afternoon had no place to go for lunch and no place to go for dinner. But the competition was really only for parking, because the amenities were not there. And having all those things going on one time and having the choice, I was talking with Miss Willis. I'm sort of an extrovert, so I stood out on the sidewalk and talked to everybody that came by. Had a blast doing that, and they loved the excitement of being in downtown Parkersburg. And instead of the streets being empty, there were activity, there were things going on, and there was choice in how you wanted to spend your afternoon. So the two takeaways from that are: one, competition is good. It adds excitement, it attracts more people to come, and it will extend people's stay in your community. The other thing is to look carefully, and as you work on the amphitheater and you work on a comprehensive plan for all your riverscape, your riverfront properties, think about how you move people to your other amenities. Think about the traffic, and think about the parking. Think about how you move somebody from the pavilion down at Spencer's Landing to the bodega. How do you make that connection? And there are lots of tips and tools for how to do that. One, having food trucks down there from those businesses to doing a coupon or packaging with those businesses, having a shuttle that will run people back and forth so that they don't have to go to their car and lose their parking spot. Many, many ways of building and ensuring and being thoughtful and deliberate in what you do and how you make the connection between your local businesses and help them grow from the activities that you're planning at Spencer's.
I have just one more question or point I want to ask about. So on page 11D, it's 4D, specific development plan, including scalability. This is the only place that's actually, that I saw in the report that is actually bolded. And it's bolded amphitheater focus as phase 1. Tell me a little about the group's study and consideration of that development plan with respect to the amphitheater and the remainder. And I think you had touched on it with the 10-acre remainder a minute ago, but I think this is important to point out.
Well, when you look at what some of the other communities have done as well is building it in a way that's comprehensive, that complements each other. As you scale it up, you don't want to start too small. I think in the study you'll see it says don't go smaller than 500. I'd say don't even go close to 500 because you want something in a facility that's going to be able to expand and grow with your success. And you want your design or your concept to be forward thinking about that. What are you going to do with parking? If you build something that has 3,000 covered seats, 2 people, as we said, about 2 people locally will come together. So that's 1,500 cars. Where are you going to put 1,500 cars? You're going to need a parking plan. You're going to need a walking trail so local people can walk and they don't have to do that. So just being forward thinking about how you're going to scale this up, ramp it up. Don't put yourself in a box where, it can't grow anymore because you don't have parking. So think about all those things and plan on how you're going to spin it up. I think you need a trolley.
The diversity of the interest in our area excites me because you get to see things that you normally won't see. Marietta is hosting the antique car circuit. They're going to have a nationwide tour. Mm-hmm. And when those cars hit Marietta, Ohio, that is going to be a big deal because these people are from all over the country and the interest, I think is going to be stunning. And that's one of the things that if we hosted that event, to have all of those old cars in one area that's so accessible and so easy to see, I think would be fantastic.
It would be fantastic, but I'd suggest that you start, because you've got the perfect place for it, host a picnic and invite them to come down this time and see the property and, hey, taste our great food from here. And what a great drive down River Road. You start up there by Henderson Hall and come down the River Road that way, and then a little jag around Boaz, and then you get back down on the River Road. That's some of the trails, the driving trails, the historic trails, your motorcycle trails, and then host them a lunch for them to get them here the first time. So that's scalability. That's you're starting small and you've got big plans. Randy's always got the big plans.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you for coming this evening and giving us this
Thank you,
presentation,
Kim.
for all the hard work that went into this, and clearly a lot of hard work went into it. And can you send us the slide deck? Because
yes,
I know you've sent this to the mayor, and he's had this for quite some time, but this is the first time we've had a chance to
got
look
it
at this.
late yesterday.
A lot of information.
And the slide deck I just finished. So
Okay.
yes, I will.
So, but I
definitely.
do have some questions, and I wish I was better prepared to ask, because I have lots of questions actually. But for right now, it's when you talk about scalability, and I think that's really important. The city went out and there was a notice to invite an architect design firm to come in and look at the plan for this. And what was put out in the paper was covered seating for 3,000 to 4,000 people, okay? And so back to what you were saying about parking. 1,500 spaces, which is, I don't know, I mean, I think 10 times what we have now for parking. And it concerns me about the size of this property because, and that's why I asked you about the 10 acres, because I think the total property is it 17 acres?
Yes.
Is that correct?
You've got 35 above it. My point is, and I want to be clear about it, is that if you say we've only got 100 parking spots, that's 200 people. You know, that you're limiting yourself. So you want to look at the 3,000 to 4,000, then you need a parking plan to go with that. It's not you if you stop at, I've only got 100 parking spots, so I can only have 200 people at an event, then you've just put yourself in a very little box.
Right, and that's not where I'm going with it. Where I'm going with it is, you know, that whole neighborhood down there, I mean, it's pretty compact, and the only thing really, I mean, on the production side, of course, we don't know what that's going to be. Potentially, that could have worked with this plan in some way. I don't know. But it seems to me that if you can't solve the parking problem by using Manville, because there's no other place, then it's just going to have to be down on Spencer's Landing between the parking and the amphitheater itself. That's pretty much going to take up a good percentage of that park.
I'm willing to bet that that park does not stay that size. I'm willing to bet.
Oh, I see. I know. I get where you're going.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
then,
Because you're going to prove that you need it, and you're going to be able to justify expanding the park.
yeah.
And again, in Florida, I ran a tourism, a bus company, and we did tourism. So busing, having parking in remote locations and busing people in is another solution to that until you get your audience built up and you then say, okay, we're going to expand the size of this, or we're going to use the Manville site, or whatever you decide to do. But making sure that you're being flexible in your planning will carry you further.
Okay. Because, I mean, you know, there's a piece of property right next to it, which is Minniebell, and, I mean, that's privately owned. Maybe it's not going to be, I don't know. But I could see where you could expand that way if, you know, the city treasury would allow that. I mean, that's a whole other part of it is money. But
That's why you have a public-private partnership, because.
yeah, that's why I wanted to ask you more about that. Because obviously for things like this to be successful, you have to have that public-private partnership. You know, costs always concern me, you know, and I know we're just talking right now, and I don't expect you to have any kind of idea about this, but, you know, but I will ask you, I know in the city of Parkersburg, they do, I think, a concert series in the park, City Park, and then they did one down at Point Park, and I assume they still do that. What kind of audience does, I mean, I know they're well attended, but I don't think there's ever a situation where it's maybe over 1,000 people.
It's around that. They are free, and they bring in local talent, so to speak. And they're not meant to be money makers. They're not meant to really, Point Park, I think when Mayor Newell was here, he talked about the fact that when they built Point Park, they didn't have the other amenities with it. It's so far removed from a restaurant, from a retail shop, that it's just a nice amenity for the community. And Main Street Association, downtown PKB, which has been trying to find a way to make it a little bit more meaningful. You know, they rent chairs and they have food trucks, and they sell alcohol on the private side of the flood wall. So, you know, there's ways to make those things happen. If I can, if you'll allow me, I'll tell you a short story about a public-private partnership that I was involved in Florida. The state owned a piece of property that they had literally mothballed in my little community in DeBerry, Florida. And I was invited to be the president of the Friends organization, and we were able to negotiate the transfer of that property from the state to the county, because when we did that, then the Friends organization and the county could go together and apply for grants from the state. But as long as it was state property, the state couldn't provide a grant to itself. The Friends organization has now developed a welcome center there. This is 30 years later, but they have a welcome center there. They've added a conference center to the space. It's now a trail hub, and you could visit the mansion that we were responsible for helping to save. You can visit that mansion and park, and from there you can go crisscross the state in all the trails that are connected. And it wouldn't have happened if we hadn't had the partnership between the public and the private.
No, I understand what you're saying. I guess one thing that concerns me, just because if I just look at this estimate, or, this impact study, the direct result, the direct spending, event spending being $900,000 for 5 events over the course of, I guess, a year, 33,000 people totaled, concession and tickets. Okay, so it really honestly bothers me because it's public property to have to monetize it to that point that you have to, to get $900,000, which ends up, I don't know, quick math, like something like $27 per person per event to make that happen. And I mean, and we live in an economically challenged area. I'll be polite about that, but.
Well, what's going to happen to the $900,000? I mean, depending on who that is, who's running the event. Let's say it's a city running the event, or it's the Friends organization, or it's that $900,000 is hiring people.
Oh, sure.
That it's buying goods and services, so it rolls over in your community.
No, I understand that part, but my
$8 per dollar.
Getting folks that have the money locally to be able to come out and enjoy the park in which their tax dollars have paid for. So that's my thing, because what you're saying is we're going to have an amphitheater potentially, and then we're looking at parking situation, and maybe that can get solved by buying additional property. But now the park becomes really shrunk down for what some of the other amenities that the people in the community have wanted. And you brought that up. You showed your, I think that was Mr. Mancuso's.
Well, you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket, for one. No. And you've got, as I recall from one of your last meetings, you have 2 other riverfront property pieces. You've got your big rec area. You've got your pool. I mean, you're not looking at this. You need to look at it from a macro. You've got your whole community. How do you put it all together?
Right.
And you cannot just say, oh, we've got to do everything right here.
No, you're right. I mean, we do have that other river property. I mean, I think, everybody for the last 4 years since we found out we were going to get a kayak launch, everybody's been waiting for that. And that's been tabled or put on a back burner. I don't know where that's gone. And we're on to this project. So I'm just trying to figure it out. Listening to what the community is asking for and understanding what the limitations are with the size of the property. And like I said, it does concern me thinking about having 3,000 to 4,000 people coming on that piece of property, and what how much space it would take for parking, et cetera, to accommodate all those folks. So it's a lot to think about, and like I said, I'm going to have a lot more questions, and hopefully you'll.
Well, I can tell you the People's Bank Theater, they charge $100 per ticket, and they regularly get 800 to 900 people who attend their events.
No, I know, I go there.
So you want to build it big enough, but that doesn't mean that that's who's going to be there the very first time you do anything. Now, the Freedom Festival over a period of 3 days brought in roughly 10,000 people. So it's possible here at all. And, some of the events were free, some of them you paid for. So keeping your community in mind is important. And, when I look at this concept paper image that was you guys did, there's plenty of room after you put that amphitheater in there. Now, keep in mind, the amphitheater is going to build up. It's not going to spread out. It's going to build up. So it's just that one corner, and you still have your trail. You still have your storybook trail. And I know a lot of people that live in Vienna that love to walk down there and walk the trail, sit and enjoy the river, and those things won't change. and, you know, you want to make sure they don't change. Or it's part of a because people want to enjoy the river, and you will be unique in our area. If you go up to Sistersville, if you go down, you have to go to Ravenswood before you get anything close to what you have at Spencer's Landing. And you're going to have to go north to Wheeling before you find anything similar. So you guys have the lock on the market, and you have something amazing in your hands.
So how big is that spot in Wheeling? Do you know that Heritage
Port, it's in the document.
Okay.
I don't remember off the.
I got my page
I don't
all
want
mixed up, so you can't even give me a page number. I'll never find it.
Okay, and I will leave with the city the PowerPoint too, and it's just an overview, but the details are in the written report.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kim. Anything else?
Mr. Azinger, do you have any questions or comments?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. Cynthia, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'm sure we'll use all the information and make some plans.
Yes.
All right. The last item on our agenda this evening is our update on Jackson Pool.
One of the highlights from the meeting this past week was that the plaster is going in for the wading pool. They're hoping next week, and when they do that, they have to also fill it. So you'll begin to see water there at the pool. So the wading pool will have water in it. They'll start getting that going. The liner's being installed right now, and a lot of finishing touches are happening. Things that are going to being installed, and still purchasing a few things and making sure everything's going to be fully furnished and ready to go. So the schedule remains the same, and tomorrow we're meeting with the management company to fine tune and make sure that everything's good with the schedule and the contract and all that kind of stuff. So we're taking care of that stuff tomorrow.
I have a question, a couple questions actually. This has been somebody reached out to me. Do you know what the cost admission to the pool is going to be?
3 and under is free. 4 to 11 is 4. 12 to 60 is 5. 61 and up is 4, and veterans are 4.
Okay. Are we going to offer pool passes?
There will be discount cards. There'll be 10 visits for $30, so that'll be $3 each visit. So those will be available. You'll be able to purchase those at the pool. And we're not doing season passes. It'll just be the discount cards.
Okay. Cost of the parties?
It's a minimum of 2 hours, maximum of 3 hours, and it's $100 an hour. So if it's 2 hours, it's $200. If it's 3 hours, it's $300 to rent the pool.
Okay.
And there was one more thing when you said that. Pool parties will be, you'll be able to rent the pool on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. We are going to finalize that tomorrow, but that should be what we're putting out to be able to rent it. And we'll have an evening swim on Tuesdays. So if we'll have one evening a week, that if you as a family want to go and swim, then you can do that on Tuesday evenings. And so we'll have, as soon as we meet with him tomorrow, we'll start putting all that information out for everybody so that they can start seeing that. But you can start calling the city building to reserve the pool, for a rental on May 1st.
Okay.
So that's what we do every year. It's nothing's changed on that.
So my other thing, are you familiar with what they do in Parkersburg? They have the Schools to Pools program. It's a CDBG funded program. So basically, they use CDBG money where they allow kids who, lower income families, to be able to purchase, or they give them pool passes, okay? And I would hope we can consider that. There's been so much discussion about what to do with the opioid money that we have. Hey, why don't we use some of that opioid money to fund pool passes, or discount cards in this case, it would work the same way, for lower income folks, and so that they can, for those kids, so they can have something to do this summer?
Okay, we'll look into that. That's good.
Thank you.
I just had a quick kind of follow-up question, Mayor. Did you get a chance to talk with the finance director about the budget revisions or whatever we might need to do for the
Yes.
change orders there?
So the answer that I got was the budget revision for the engineering costs for Martin Aquatic was done now because I wasn't anticipating any further engineering costs and went ahead and proceeded. So it was an unexpected cost is the reason why that came through. The second thing is the change orders for the pool have not been done at this time because I was waiting for a total to send it to council. The line item is not overspent. It's line item 548-58, and it is not overspent. So she thinks it would be better to show it all at one time. All right, so that is the answer to that. All right, anything else? All right, so I'm sorry. We're going to have a need for an executive session. It'll be a very quick one, but we need to go into executive session to discuss a real estate matter. So if I could entertain a motion for an executive session, please.
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded that we go into executive session. All those in favor, please signify. Are you still there, Tom?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to call you right back in 2 minutes when we go into executive session, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, everybody in favor of that, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, let's.